Welcome to the IFC Nights. It's your host, Patrick from Half Cheetah Will View, along with
I'm Knight from the NightWatch Zone.
the mighty NightWatch Zone.
Ben from the not quite as mighty Cadaver Club.
Yeah,
I would say that. I would not say that at all. I would say that would be just as mighty, if not more, than both of us, because you have kaiju for friends, whereas we have cats.
I do.
I mean that's mighty. It's mighty having a cheetah, but it doesn't compare to having Geigen as a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Our fourth and fifth members of the panel will not be here tonight. They had a family emergency, so I hope everything will well with Coriander, and we will see her next month. So we are talking for our show tonight. Our first show, our debut show, we did a dark song, and so with first-time director Liam Gavin. So this time we're sticking sort of in the theme of supernatural horror, with a debuting director in The Devil's Doorway, which was directed by Aislinn Clarke. She actually was the first Irish female director to do a horror film in Ireland. And she won many awards for her movie. And so what do you think, Knight? What did you think about this movie?
Wow. I think that it was really interesting how gritty and real it felt, when I first started watching it, which was the first time I watched it. I was really drawn in, I was like really impressed with how it just felt so just gritty and real and even relatable to a certain degree, which was kind of odd, because, I've never been to a Magdalene laundry, but very, very enjoyable and atmospheric. Very atmospheric.
And how about you, Ben?
I agree with all those points. Definitely had good atmosphere. I liked the sort of, I think they did a good job with the characters in this one, You have like the conflicted priest and the young sort of up and coming, still head in the clouds priest. So you have that sort of, balance between the two people that are investigating going on.
Yeah.
And then the cynical, head nun chick. I don't know what she's called.
The mother superior.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I liked it all the way around. Definitely a good movie. Very similar in premise to another movie called Borderlands that I had seen, but quite a bit different in execution.
Mm.
Hey Tim, how are you, sir? Yeah, I was caught with the same sort of vibe. The young priest. He was like the modern of the two. He was up to advanced, and he had the old school priest who was he was weary, he was bone tired. He saw much. And then you had this young man who was still full of vim and vinegar. He looked up to Father Thomas, and he believed in him, and he saw this more as an adventure, more than any sort of threat or anything that's bad was going to happen. I think he got an idea that he was going to be able to play around with his modern toys, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
The story starts off with the two priests, when they go to Magdalene Laundry, which is a real place. They're all over Ireland. They existed for over 200 years, and that's basically where unkempt women, the pregnant ones who were out of wedlock, the unstable, the prostitutes, all sorts of women had no place to go. A lot of them were basically forced to go to these Magdalene laundries. They didn't have much choice, so they were put there, and then they basically worked from dawn to dusk, with unending. and the mother superior and the nuns would keep track of them and make sure that they did the work.
Yeah.
For this movie, they had the two priests are investigating a potential miracle in that there was the virgin, there's blood, she was crying blood.
Mm.
And I thought it was really interesting how Father John was he was rather skeptical. I mean, you wonder why he was picked for that mission.
I agree.
I don't know. Maybe because he was cynical. Maybe that was it. But I mean, for him to have no belief system at all, that was really interesting to me to see why they picked him to go investigate.
So
you mean Father Thomas or
Father Thomas? Yes.
Yeah.
I sort of felt like he was cynical because of his job. Like that was his job, and he had investigated so many so-called miracles, and they were never turned out to be miracles, that he just became cynical over time. So I don't really feel like he was selected. He was like, whatever. They were like, hey, dude, we got a job for you. I felt like it was like he was seasoned miracle investigator, and that was why he was so cynical of everything.
Yeah, I kind of got that a little bit too. And I will say this, I think story-wise, I thought that was a nice touch for the movie, because as soon as first of all, he was fantastic to me anyways. Every time he was on screen, every time he was talking, I was really, really drawn in, because he actually reminded me, like the old gunslinger. He's seen it all, he's done it all. Listen to me, kid, this is no big thing, I've been here before. And it was interesting to see him be like that and play off, like you were saying earlier, Patrick, the young priest. And but I thought I agree with you, Ben. I think it, because he had just been around, the block so much, he had seen it all, and he was able to investigate and figure out, if things were not, real miracles or whatever either. So
I think what was really interesting about it is, to me, in watching him, it almost seemed like they pretty much almost established that he had pretty much lost his faith because he was so cynical.
Yep.
He just, there was nothing there. Like, he didn't believe anything could happen or would happen, because you're right, because he had already seen so many frauds and tricksters, as he said.
Right.
So they get to the laundromat. Hey, Cody.
Hey,
Mr. Dan.
Cody?
All right.
And Dan.
So I think when they got to the laundry, I do think that Father Thomas, even before anything happened, he had already established. When he came through, it's almost like from the outside, where they're talking about what they're going to do, where they're going to go. But as soon as he put his foot through the doorway, his attitude changed. I mean, he was basically. I thought he was actually aggressive in the how he came into the laundromat. Like, he did not like being there. He did not like what he was seeing. And his attitude was instantly like he put the Mother Superior dead on her heels.
Yeah,
and definitely see there was some aggravation between the two of them. He was ready for battle, but within his own church.
But she was almost, I would say, she was ready for battle as well. She was like a fucking shriveled old prune, man. She was like a bitter harpy.
Oh, she was fierce. I thought it was definitely a really good match between the Mother Superior and Father Thomas, for sure.
Yeah.
That was actually a real fascinating look, because it was almost like they were battling. Here's Father John. He's sitting there, watching these two, and it's like, who is he looking after? The old seasoned Mother Superior, or his new mentor, so to speak? And he's watching the clash. I mean, it's like, Oh, I thought it was an interesting dynamic, and what I really appreciated about those two was how they're older actors, and they
Yeah.
gave it such more gravitas. It was like
Hmm.
you could really feel the intensity between the two of those.
Hmm.
You could also like, for me, I'm not a Catholic person. I don't know too much about the church, but it felt like there was a statement being made about sort of just the general nature of like that church machine, because these people that have been in it for a while end up to be like cynical and like, non-believing. And then you have
Yeah.
like all the nuns who, like the nun who did the anonymous letter or whatever. And then what was the younger priest's name?
John.
Father John, yeah.
Father John. Then you have, those people that are still like believing it, but then like, it's a bit of a condemnation on the Catholic Church, I thought.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
no doubt about that. I mean, there's definitely some heat on the church within the writing of the story of the storytelling.
Yeah.
There's definitely some heat there. It was not necessarily they weren't there to support the church necessarily. I
Yeah.
mean, basically, yeah. That's what I think. Me and Knight were talking about this right before when it went on. Was I think what really added so much power to this movie was the fact that it was rooted in reality. A
Mm,
lot of what you were hearing, in the dialogue between Father Thomas and the Mother Superior, actually was based on fact.
Right.
And to
hmm.
me, that's what made that movie, The Devil's Doorway, a lot more frightening. Was knowing that this happened.
Right.
Uh, the Catholic Church swept a lot of people's lives underneath the carpet,
Hmm.
um, and just forgot about them. I
And
mean,
yeah, well, no, I'm sorry. I was going to say that's what really got me too is the fact that this stuff has really happened. And you know how it usually goes, like when you watch a movie or something that is talking about real life events, you usually figure it out that real life is even worse than what you're going to see in the movie or read in a book or whatever. And that's what kept kind of, hitting me as I was watching it. I was like, man, I bet you it's even way worse than this. So yeah, I agree with you, Patrick. That's what made it horrific to me too. That realism
On a
based in
on
fact.
a on a technical level, something that was interesting about the film is it's found footage told in like a 4:3 or a square aspect ratio.
Mm.
Because it was shot on like old film, like 8 or 16 millimeter film.
right.
But then one thing that was really interesting is it was pretty resolved to do that whole found footage style through that film camera. But
Hmm.
there was added sound design that was not in the scenes, so it was kind of like an interesting counterpoint between a found footage and like a more cinematic movie.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
agree.
Did you notice how you notice that they were supposed to? I thought it was interesting too how as far as the interaction between the nuns and the both priests were not only were there the mother superior, but the rest of the nuns were like that. I mean, when they were walking in and Father John was doing a little bit of filming,
Yeah.
Hmm.
he was filming the women praying at mass. I mean,
Hmm.
another nun just walked over and shut the window on his face and
Yeah.
out. I just thought that was like, wow, that's like, I thought we were all supposed to be one big happy family here, but you could definitely see that those two were not welcome.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought that was, and then they saw the abuse. The one nun was trying to be cheeky with the father and Father John, and one of the nuns came over and just clocked the hell out of her.
Mm.
Um, I thought that was just, it was like, it was just like, I don't know, just you could just definitely tell something was not right in that place. Um,
Yes.
so now we established that the two fathers are looked upon as the enemy. Then
Hmm.
we go to the night where they each separate. Father John has his own room and Father Thomas has his. Whereas Father Thomas isn't hearing nothing, but Father John all of a sudden starts hearing a lot of weird shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what did you feel like when you first, I mean, what did you think of the all of a sudden you're sitting in there and the whole room he starts hearing the kids laughing. I mean, that was like, you couldn't understand it. It's like, okay, what am I hearing here?
Right. It was creepy. It was really creepy, and I was thinking, oh man, this is really going to go down that road, isn't it? And it obviously it intensified too over time. You know, what he would hear, what he would see. You know, at first he really didn't see anything. It'd be like a quick flash, and I think the way it was shot, I think it was really smart because, you know, they didn't show you too much. They allowed your imagination to kind of work for itself. So I always love those types of movies because it would have been easy to do a lot of overkill, you know, with a movie like this. But I think that Miss Clarke held back, you know, and I thought that was smart as a director. But it was so interesting that Father Thomas didn't hear anything or see anything at first. And so you've got, like you were saying, the two priests against the nuns, but you also start to have the priests kind of, you know, having, you know, conflicting feelings about what's going on both sides, because you got Father Thomas, who's very, you know, pessimistic about this whole thing, and you have John, who kind of looks up to him. But now you got John, who's like, you didn't hear that? I heard it. What's going on? So you had all these like conflicts going on, and they made sense.
The one thing that didn't exactly make sense was that he captured all of that on camera and audio. So like, it's not like a he said, she said situation. It was like, dude, I'm not making this up. Listen to this fucking tape. And then he would have heard it. So it was a little weird.
Point.
Yeah, I agree. You wonder why he didn't tell that to Father Thomas, you know, like, especially when he, you know, especially when he started seeing the kids, and then he got really spooked because he looked down there and there was that toy there.
Yeah.
You know, that toy was sitting there. I was actually waiting for him to reach for it. And then I was waiting for him to reach for the toy, and then his hand being grabbed by one of the kids.
Yeah.
But I was waiting for that. I was sitting on the edge of my seat, and I'm thinking, is he going to get spooked like that? But I thought leaving the toy just as it was a really interesting clue to what was starting. You know, they're starting to get an idea. You know, something definitely is not wrong. Definitely not right here. And you're right. I mean, Father John, because Father Thomas wasn't hearing anything, he did start. You know, they called him Doubting Thomas.
Yeah.
You know, he was saying, you know, and Father John went on camera saying that. You know, and then he tried to backpedal it just in case someone else was watching that tape. He didn't want to be seen knocking them down. But then they couldn't get anything going at first because Father Thomas wasn't hearing anything.
Yeah. And
then slowly but surely, things start coming up. You know, things start ratcheting up. They meet they start seeing signs. The statues start crying blood. And then we're starting to see a little bit. We're starting to see Father Thomas start, you know, maybe rethinking his steps a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice touch that they made him a little bit of a scientist, because he was sitting there and analyzing, doing all the blood. He was taking the blood off the statue, and he was running tests on it. I thought that was an interesting little touch.
Yeah. No, he was such an interesting character, and like you were alluding to, once he started to kind of drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, that's when I was kind of like, oh boy, here we go. You know, it's really happening. You know, as a viewer, I don't know, you know, sometimes as a viewer, you put yourself in the shoes of certain characters. For whatever reason, I kept, you know, kind of thinking about Father Thomas, you know, and so once he started to see, you know, you start see a few things before the shit really hit the fan. That's when I was even getting more invested in the movie. So it was really, really good the way they crafted it.
It was, you know, interesting because even through like pretty clear evidence and proof, he was still maintained his skepticism for a while, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was like really clinging onto that hard.
That's a good way of putting it. He was using it like almost like a shield.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to word it. He was using it like a shield.
Because when Father John was like, well, you know, what if you can't explain it, and he's like, what if it's not these things that you think it might be? And he's like, well, then it will be something else,
Mm-hmm.
And then they're crying, and he's like, well, yeah, it's blood and everything. I'm seeing all of these things. There's no mechanism. Every fucking statue in this place is crying like genuine human blood.
Right.
Well, I thought the part about where he found out that the blood came from a pregnant woman, that was like, how did he figure that out? That was like, okay, because there's not supposed to be anything like that in the laundry.
Mm-hmm.
And then he exacerbated the situation by demanding that every girl have a test, every woman have a test, including the nuns.
Yeah.
It was just like, he says, you too, you're gonna have to, and here's the Mother Superior going like, he can't be talking about me, everybody. So he was just throwing that net. He was just throwing that net over everybody.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting once they they met the nun who actually had written a letter, that was the anonymous letter to the bishop about that the statues crying blood. When they met her, she was terrified.
Mm.
And you could definitely tell that it wasn't just because of the blood coming out of the eyes. There was something else going on. And so when the two priests start going down deeper, and then I thought the dynamic between the Mother Superior and Father Thomas, it just, you thought it was already high, the tension was already high, but it got higher. It was like, you have to show us everything. You're hiding something. What are you hiding?
Yeah.
And then we see. They found the girl Kathleen. She was tied up. She was inside the holding cell. She was pregnant, but she was being held there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I think that's where Father Thomas, I think when he saw the girl there, I think that really touched his whatever he had left, the whatever softness in his heart he had left. I think it touched it right away, and I thought that was interesting.
I agree.
Well, even though he was like super cynical, his whole backstory. Well, he was sort of raised in one of those places, right? He was raised in an orphanage.
Yeah, he was an orphan.
And he said the whole reason he became a priest was because he wanted to be a good man, and that was his motivating factor. So he, like, deep down inside, he has empathy for her because she's being in this place, and who knows, he was probably mistreated too.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, is cynical as fuck, but at his core, he's a good dude.
Right.
That's his motivation.
Yeah, he really wasn't. He wasn't what you would call a normal Catholic father. I mean, it was almost like yes, I'm a Catholic priest, but I'm not. I wear the cloth. I know the rituals. I could do a mass. I could do all this and that. But really, it's not why he joined the church. He didn't join the church because he believed in what the church was teaching. He joined it as a moral mission than anything else. To be a good man, he wanted to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part of that cynicism was when he got in there, he discovered the church itself was not. He was almost like he was better. He was a better person than the people he met within the church itself.
I think he realized. Well, he says at a point, like, he doesn't say smoke and mirrors, but that he implies that that's what it is, and he does say, like, all of those smoke and mirrors, the whole pomp and circumstance and the theater of it all is built on the back of normal people, like he was when he joined to become a better person,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and he also
talked about the whole church machine.
Yeah. And also with human beings in general as well, because he said something to John about whether it's in this world or the next, the most horrible things that you see have been crafted by man or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And so he just you could just feel the weight of his life, the weight of his experiences and stuff. And it made him such an interesting character to follow because he literally was front and center so much. He's, like you said, he's so cynical and seasoned, but yet he did want to be a good man. When he met Kathleen, like you were saying, Patrick, too, he softened up, and you could even hear it in his voice. Credit to him as an actor. Are you okay, child? And he everything softened about him. The way he moved, the way he talked, everything.
Yeah, it's almost like Kathleen being in that position. It's almost like he rediscovered his faith. Like this is what I was here for. And then when he went to try to help her, and then ran across the stiff resistance of the nuns.
Yes,
he just wanted to help that girl.
Yeah,
but she was possessed. That was the thing. She was actually possessed. And all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe the nuns aren't far wrong what they're doing here.
Right.
Maybe they need to take a step back and listen to the Mother Superior for a change and sit there but she's trying to explain things like, we have her here like this for a reason.
Which, I mean, she straight up pulled a fucking Hannibal Lecter on that nun.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah,
it was. I was like,
as soon as they unchained her, she's like, I'm just a sweet little pregnant lady.
Yes, that was straight up Hannibal. Yes.
I think that the fact that here you are, you're thinking like, okay, so maybe the nuns aren't far off, but how does she get to where she was? How does she get to be in the position where she's possessed? And then of course now at night, even at night though, Father John's still hearing all the noise and his ratcheting, and now they're telling him they're going to kill you. They told him that at least 3 times. They're going to kill you. Not the kids. The kids did not say that. The kids didn't say, I'm going to kill you. He said they're going to. They are going to kill you. And all of a sudden you realize there's an unseen force going on inside the laundry.
And that first started before, I think it was the first one, right? He goes the first night. He sees the girl playing with the toy at the bottom of the stairs. He turns the corner to go down to see what's up. She's gone, and he goes and looks at the toy, and then you can tell there was like sound design. It would have been back here, right?
Yeah.
She says they're going to kill you. And yeah, I mean, she doesn't say we're going to kill you or
Yeah, well, it wasn't like we're going to kill you or I'm going to kill you. They're going to kill you. Now you got that going on, and then all the statues in the laundry all break. So now the tension is rising higher because now there's obviously signs of a possession here. And the signs are manifesting itself by causing all the destruction of the church and all the Virgin Mary statues or whatnot. They're all destroyed, and so you're wondering what's going on, what's causing this, and what's causing it in the middle of supposedly a sanctuary. It's supposed to be a holy place,
right?
Because here it is. You got the Mother Superior, got her nuns. It's supposed to be protected, and yet we're finding out that not so much. And the pregnant girl Kathleen basically becomes that really becomes the battle for her to save her and her child between Father Thomas and the Mother Superior. Father Thomas wants to get her out, and all of a sudden you start seeing him. He's not a priest so much, but he's a man. And he has compassion. His language starts to change. He he wasn't talking like a priest anymore.
Yeah.
Now he's starting to get a little bit more. He's like, he's starting to drop a couple of F-bombs in there. It was just like okay, he's getting earnest about this. He wants, and I just thought it was really interesting to see that. The doctor come out. The doctor saying, "Well, I don't think we could do anything for her." And then when he tried to get her out of the room, to let her, untie her. And first we saw that happen. She came out of the room, and since she attacked the other nun. Then the second time they tried to get her out, her hand burst on fire.
Yes, that was crazy.
She's definitely showing all the signs of possession.
Yes.
And you're speaking Greek and unknown language or what he understood it. I just thought that okay, so what's going on here? Why is this happening?
Right.
Who's doing this?
They did a good job too of building up the possession sort of reveal, because it was done sort of like, the haunted children part. There's small signs at first, because the first thing she does is speak ancient Greek to him, right? Mm-hmm. He goes like, who taught her that, Right. And then more signs start coming up, and it's like, the same with the kids. At some point, he can't really explain it away, and so he has to just like face it full on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think like the hand bursting into flame was like maybe one of the turning points, and there was a levitation scene as well. So it's like you can't really say, well, I don't know, maybe she's just like hella light or something. It's like
I have to go back to what you said before about the fact that they didn't look at the film. They didn't roll it back. I mean, I don't. But then again, if he actually shot film back then, I'm not so sure they could have rewound it to watch it, because I think it was probably a reel to reel.
It was reel to reel. It was film, and you would have had to develop it. But in the movie, they do show them watching footage of what he shot earlier. So he must be developing it on site. And in fact, one of those nights, I mean, I thought one of like the coolest scenes was, I think it was the second night when he hears the kids, out in the hallway and stuff. And then he hears like knocking on the window, right? And then on the drapes, you see two little bloody child handprints appear. And then he gets like bum rushed by some entity. Yeah. I thought all that was done really well.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I thought when Father Thomas, he wanted to, after seeing what's going on with Kathleen, he does more digging, and he finds out that there's all these kids that are supposed to be here, and yet all the records that he finds have been falsified. There's no sign of the kids that supposedly had been adopted out. And he wants to know what happened to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a nice new wrinkle that they added to me, because I'm like, wow, now we're going down this road too. We were in my mind while I'm watching it, I'm still in the heart of the possession and about Kathleen and the baby, and then they were bringing up this. So this movie, it balanced out a lot of nice little plot points.
The Mother Superior was like such an unlikable character from the get-go, but she becomes even more unlikable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As the movie progresses, so she evolves in that sense too. And in that scene, she's like, oh, they all got adopted by this, American agency. And then he's like, there is no agency. They were not adopted. What happened to them? She's like, oh, I sold them.
Yeah.
They went to a hospital, it's like human trafficking and shit. Like, holy fuck.
Exactly. And then she goes, well, it was not like the church was going to help us out, was it? It was like another backhanded slap against the church. It's like here they are living in luxury in the Vatican, but they ain't going to help some laundromat in Ireland.
Yeah.
So she felt like she had to do what she had to do to make her laundromat successful.
And what was even worse is that she said, because he said, well, I'm going to report this to the bishop. And she said, I forgot the exact line, but she was like, good luck with that. And she said, I think you'll be surprised to know that the bishop is not surprised. And I'm like, wow, the curtain has been raised. I'm like, holy crap, man.
So now we're getting to the final third of the movie. And we find that we see Kathleen as exhibiting more signs of possession, but you also get the feeling too that she's being manipulated. And then Father Thomas and Father John, they start exploring the caverns of the laundromat, and it's big, it is massive. I mean, it's really, there's so many different alleyways, and it's a labyrinth down there.
Mm-hmm.
Then they come across that room, and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit.
Yep.
Now we know what's going on.
Bingo.
Yeah, walk us what you guys thought through that when you guys walked in there and they saw what they saw.
Oh man! As soon as you see the satanic stuff, I was like, "Yep, it had to be somewhere." And it's it's just that realization that, like you said, this is supposed to be a holy place. This is supposed to be a place, a good place. We know that the Mother Superior is obviously a little cantankerous and stuff like that, but to see, as what Father Thomas said, he said it was a satanic sanctuary.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, it was just crazy. It was like I said, it was another nice wrinkle to it.
But it was also another moment. So they grab the Mother Superior and they're like, well, why don't you explain this, you fucking hoe?
Yeah.
And they get down there and it's all gone. It's just a room, right? And
I knew it's so funny. I knew that was going to happen. I was watching it with Coriander, and we both knew. I was like, it's not going to be there. I know it. Sure. That was one of the few parts of the movie that was, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, I knew it wouldn't be there when she went there,
But Father Thomas witnessed it with his own eyes, and they had it on film,
Right.
So like, don't take our word for it, look at this fucking film,
Right.
I think that's when Father Thomas fully regained his faith.
Mm-hmm.
With that. I mean, once he walked in there and saw that, I think his shield was gone. That shattered his shield. That cynicism and the world weariness. All of a sudden, now he's being faced with something he's denied all his life. He's spent his whole life debunking, and all of a sudden now he's actually seeing it. Now he's seeing the possession upstairs, including the levitation, the hand bursting in flame. Now he's seeing this, and I think then that that's just all of a sudden it almost comes together for him. You can almost see it in his head what's going on, and then they go back, for Kathleen, and she's gone. She's because they're gonna try to get the baby. Kathleen's dead, but the baby's gone.
Well, there's also before I think when the baby goes missing is when he really embraces the situation. He's like, okay, fuck this is happening. Because even when he goes back down there, he's like all perplexed. He's like looking at the rafters and shit. Like, where did those decorations go? Did they get put in the attic or some shit? So I think he didn't fully embrace it until they started chasing after the baby, right?
Yeah.
It was funny because I didn't catch this till I watched it again. But he had mentioned earlier about him being born in a place like this, and once you realize that, when you watch him move, you realize that he was born there. He had been born there because he knew exactly where to go. He was not lost at all. He moved through. He moved through that doorway. Like when you go somewhere new, you're gonna go really slow and hesitant because you've never been there before. You don't know. But you see how he moves. He leaves Father John in the dust. He's way the hell out in front of him. He knows where to go and what to look for. And you realize that Father Thomas had been raised at that laundromat. He's been raised there, and that he has an idea. Now he has an idea what's going on, and so he's chasing after the baby. He's trying to save that baby, and then Father John is trying to keep up with him.
Right.
And of course, and you don't really see what happens to Father Thomas. You don't ever really see that. You since it's found footage, you already know the ending's going to be pretty much what they always are with found footage films. Something takes out Father John at the end, but we never really get an idea what it was. I mean, not really.
You totally do. I thought. I mean, 100%. They show exactly. Their sound design of him getting. We're talking about Father Patrick or Father
John.
Yeah, we know he died. We know he gets killed.
But they show who kills him.
You saw a flash, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a flash.
For Father John, you see a flash. For the other one, the older priest, you see exactly who does it.
Right.
Oh, I missed have blinked on that.
And she has a line. In fact, she says, "Welcome home."
Welcome home.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that was. And so then we find out that the mother superior and the nuns had actually become devil worshippers, and that was a mind screw. I mean, that was just like you just didn't, even though you had an idea, you just didn't think it was really going to happen, and that they had been killing all those kids and sacrificing them all along, for the whole time they were there.
That's when they first go into that underground area, those tunnels, the catacombs, whatever they were. You are faced with tons of little kid bones, right? Everywhere there's little kid skeletons and bones, and it's creepy.
Yeah. You see bones of so many. You see the bones of the little skulls, all the animals they used to sacrifice. They had the full on pentagram on the floor and on the wall. I mean, it was just definitely just disturbing as hell.
But they also sort of left it up for interpretation on who exactly was involved. They implicate one person in particular.
Yeah.
They don't say how far within the nuns it went, like if there was a lot of them, some of them, all of them, or what,
Well, yeah, because obviously there's some that did not know what was going on. Because the one that wrote initially only wrote because of the blood on the Virgin Mary.
Right.
She didn't have any idea what was going on. And then when they found her murdered later on, it was only because she probably saw them take the baby. She probably tried to stop them or whatnot, and they killed her for it.
Wait, did they kill the woman who wrote?
Yeah. They found her on the stairwell. She'd been killed.
Oh, okay.
Remember she was saying an eye for an eye, an arm for an arm, and that's what happened. They just killed her. So at the end of the film, it's like, yeah, I mean, it was just I guess it was sort of open ended too. I mean, you don't know exactly. I just still didn't. I mean, I have to go back and rewatch that. I know what happened to Father John. I have to go back and see what happened to Father Thomas, but it was still really, really good. And this movie was only 73 minutes long, but didn't it play bigger? Didn't it play bigger?
Yeah,
a lot bigger. In fact, like halfway through, it felt like a longer full length feature. And I'm not sure. Like, I think it was more just the sort of gravity of the filmmaking as opposed to like, some movies feel like they're just like, oh my God, how long has this been on? But it wasn't really like that. You're engaged the whole time, but it felt like a very well-rounded story for 72 minutes. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought really helped this movie out a lot. Like I mentioned before, it was the casting. I thought using older actors, like the one for Father Thomas and for the Mother Superior, I always feel like when you use older actors in a movie like that, it just adds so much more weight to it. It gives such a more realism than it is when they just put young actors in there,
Well, I had found out, because I always get really interested with smaller movies like this too, as far as the process, because like you said, Ben, it felt so much bigger than what it was. The craftsmanship was there, the acting and everything. But the gentleman who played Father Thomas, I guess originally the idea was that character was going to be a younger character, a younger priest. And I guess the gentleman, I forgot his name, something Roddy, but I guess he got in touch with the director and basically kind of, found his way into the movie. He did an audition type of thing. And because of his own life, situations and things he had lived through in his own life, that helped to add to the weariness and the cynicism that he was able to portray through the character. So I think, again, every once in a while, you have things that happen for a good reason. And I think he for me anyways, he was a big part of this movie, the glue. So
yeah.
I thought Lawler, I think Lawler Roddy.
Yes.
I thought Lala Roddy, and I thought the Mother Superior, Helena Buren, definitely were the stars of the show. I mean, those two were having scenes together. You could just feel the electricity between them. It just really ramped up everything, and it was just so great. It's great when you watch two really great actors when they get a chance to actually sink some teeth into some good dialogue. I mean, you can definitely tell they're really enjoying, the back and forth, and it helped ramp up the movie for me. I mean, it made it a lot more. Like I said, the first half of the movie, the tension was just so thick because they're both sharing all this historical stuff, and it just made the movie just so much more impactful for me.
Yeah.
It was what was another thing that was interesting about those two characters is they're both these sort of cynical, seasoned people within the church who both have like sort of lost their faith, right? Just as a result of being part of this church machine. But then you still have Father Thomas, who's still like a good figure at heart, and then you have her, which is still kind of like an evil figure. So you have like it's like good versus evil, but then at the same time they're both these like cynical old fucking, people that have been through the same like machine and are like, whatever sort of shriveled husk because of it. But on one end, one guy's still good and one person is still evil.
I will say this for Father John. I have to give him credit though, because he stayed in the fight. It would have been so easy for him to turn tail and run, but he stayed in the fight. He followed Thomas down into the labyrinth. He had no idea where he was going, who he was going to see, or anything like that. And he kept on going. He could have easily turned around and ran, but I thought it was to a credit to his character that he did not. And I thought that was a really nice touch, showing that he didn't run. He stayed, even though he'd been overwhelmed by what he saw, the possession and the worst and the sacrifice room and the blood and the stat. I mean, he's a kid that young. I mean, it's almost like he was much younger than like a Father Karras in The Exorcist, and because Father Karras was in that same boat too. He was following after the older priest, and he was just seeing what he was seeing. And I think his instinct was just to, oh hell, I'm out of here. But he stayed in the fight, and I really like that aspect of the character. And
he was probably in his 20s, you think?
Yeah,
late 20s.
Yeah.
And I when I watched it, I rewatched this movie last night, for this stream, and when I was watching it. When they were down in the catacombs there in the third act or whatever that you want to call those tunnels, I was like kind of struck by the fact that there's like, he does a good job of portraying like, panic and fear. He's like, we're going to fucking die down here, aren't we?
Yeah.
But then like at the same time, I'm thinking like, dude, he's still a faithful dude, who's like believes in God and the afterlife and all that stuff. Like, I guess it's just human nature to be scared, but you would think like someone who had true faith in God and the afterlife would be like, oh, great. Well, I guess I'll go return to the flock now. Like
maybe you're right.
Not be so panicked.
Maybe that's the reason why he did charge down there, because he was going down following his faith. If something happened to him, he knew that he'd be at a better place.
Yeah.
I just, I think that's one of those things where everybody's really happy-go-lucky and believes everything, but then when you actually encounter it, it's like one of the tropes of ghost hunting movies or demon hunting movies. It's like you always see the characters we're ghost hunters, and then they go and the very first time they find a fucking ghost, what do? They turn tail and run out the door.
Right.
Like, well, wait a minute. Isn't that what you're here for? You're here because of that, right? So why are you? And I like the fact that that's what I mean. Father John, he didn't run. This is what he didn't expect to find it, but then he did. He's staying in it. He's not going to. And like I said, I totally respect the character and his story, his arc in the Devil's Doorway, because I thought it was important. Because you would not, if you thought after all he saw, that he would turn and run, but he
absolutely
didn't. I almost felt though, just to stick a little point on that, Father John in that situation seemed like he is the person who lost some of his resolve, because he was panicking and because he was like, oh shit, we're gonna die, and then he was like faced with all that. But then Father Thomas finds him and realizes, oh yeah, okay, I get it. We're both gonna die down here, but I'm gonna try to save that fucking baby. Like his resolve really strengthens, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's a good point.
he sort of wavers, but the salty, cynical one is like, well, this. I'm gonna do this one thing in my life. This is gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You sort of wish that you always think about, well, gosh, if they could only have one, like I could understand if they wanted to get rid of one of the priests, but boy, it'd be nice to see them save the baby. But that would then again that wouldn't make a good found footage film either, right? So you already know what's going to happen to the baby. It's a shocker. It's a shame, but yeah, unfortunately,
they don't ever show it though.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
They don't ever like find a dead baby or anything,
No,
Right.
no, but think of all the ghosts though of all the children. All those kids that we saw throughout the movie. Those have been all kids that they have murdered. Those are the kids. That's why they were warning them. They're sitting there going, "They're going to kill you." They had already been killed at that laundromat.
But one thing that's interesting to consider is that this one was different. This was born from a virgin who was possessed because of satanic rituals. You don't know what that baby could be like, the Damien, like the
Antichrist,
whatever.
Yeah.
That could be.
They just leave it up for interpretation.
Yeah.
So I just want to share some final thoughts on Night. And Ben, would you want to wrap this on up? And
Sure. I'll let you go first, Ben.
Yeah, definitely a good movie. When I saw it, it reminded me a lot of Borderlands, which is also known as Final Prayer, I think, here in the U.S., which is very similar premise and also a really good movie, definitely worth watching. Has very similar characters with the two people investigating miracles, one cynical priest and one, younger type person. But they were both done pretty differently, and I thought this one was very effective. Both are very effective. But I definitely would recommend both of those movies to anyone who likes found footage and or religion horror. Both really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. This film, it was really, really good. I wasn't bored with it at all. I was really invested, and like you were saying earlier, Ben, it's a tight and lean film. It's not a long film, but it felt bigger and it felt like a longer film, not because you were bored, but just because a lot of things were being put into it very well too. So I definitely would recommend it. It was very nice, very, very nice. And it could have fallen into a lot of the tropes for found footage. And I want to give it credit too, is that it really stayed away from a lot of those things. It had a couple of moments, you had a couple of moments with the possession where you have the contortion and, you had to have the levitation and stuff like that. But really, it stayed above the fray from what you would usually see in an exorcism or possession movie. And I appreciated that as well. And a found footage movie.
Yeah. Had a lot of presence for what it was,
Mm-hmm.
I thought Aislinn Clarke, who actually won many awards for her debut, I thought it was really, really tightly directed. It didn't waste any energy at all. I mean, it was like I said, it was 73 minutes. It played bigger, but it was lean, but it was very mean and it was very fast.
Mm-hmm.
I really, she knew she told the story exactly how it was. No wasted movement. No jump scares. Notice that no jump scares really in that movie.
Yeah,
a few jump scares.
Yeah,
There's a few jump scares. I think
not to be a couple, maybe a couple, but it's not the obvious like you see in a Conjuring movie.
They were well done. It wasn't like the priest went to the medicine cabinet. And
yes, I was thinking that too. Yeah,
right.
They stayed away from the medicine cabinet.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just a really rooted in reality. Really, just like you actually could believe something like that could happen. Like I could see this story actually happening.
Yeah.
Where some of these other ones where they try to get a little bit bloated and it just becomes a little bit like, yeah, right. But I never felt that way with the Devil's Story. I just felt like what's coming next. And then, like I said, like when I rewatched it, and it came to me like, wait a minute, Father Thomas was born here. This is his. He was here before. He grew up here, and I didn't get that the first time I watched it. Because I was like, I was like, oh, okay, I see that. I thought, like I said, I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. I thought it's definitely one of my favorite IFC Midnight films, and just evidence of what they put out, the quality that they put out, and they sometimes gets overlooked by others. No names, but I really liked it. I thought it was really well done, and highly recommend it. Well, I think we're going to be Ben. I think you're hosting the next show, right? In August.
Yeah, let's do it, man. My birthday. I'm going to turn 1001.
August 29th. You can just let us know what movie you want to cover, and then we'll let people know.
Devil's Candy, baby. We're going with it. Let's do it.
Devil's Candy.
Love that movie.
Okay. All right. So next month. August 29th at 8 p.m. At 8 p.m. August 29th, we're going to be covering The Devil's Candy. Here on
I would say let's figure out the actual details. Let's just not quite set our appointment books yet for a date and time. Let's take a gander at how it's going to be. I haven't looked at a calendar or anything.
Okay, we can do that.
But it will be next month, and it will be.
I always carry a calendar with me, so
you are definitely way more organized than I am. For sure.
Man, I just wanted to look at the chat here. I didn't do a very good job at that. I might have to leave that up to you, Knight, because you always do such a good job at this. I see the chat is full of people talking. I'm really sorry about that. I just got so involved in it. I just want to say thanks so much for everybody showing up for this. We're going to be doing it again next month. Once a month, we're going to do an IFC movie. So next month, we're doing The Devil's Candy. Wow. Thanks for showing up. And wow, I guess we'll see you. I'll see you guys in a couple hours. For the midnight hour with John Oak Dalton. But thanks again, everybody, for showing up. And until then, make mine IFC midnight.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.